State of Fear, where terror is homegrown. Join us as we take a drive down dusty back roads and discover the obscure and dark history of this country, human and otherwise, that lurk in your backyard.
Back to State of Fear podcast. This is episode 3. My name is Chris, and as always with me is James.
Greetings.
So today we are going to cover the great state of Arizona in all of its heat, and hot glory. But today's topic is actually one of the more famous ones. It's had a movie made about it. There's a couple of documentaries made about it. What makes it so famous is that there was actual police involvement in it, and some of the witnesses later went on to become suspects.
Yeah, and I find that rather odd.
Yeah, so today we're talking about the Travis Walton abduction. He was abducted on November 5th, 1975, while working at the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest near Snowflake, Arizona. I used to live in Arizona.
Snowflake in Arizona.
Yeah, I lived...
You literally can't get any more opposite.
No.
Yes, I lived there for a couple of years myself, and the first time I ever got out of the car, out of the van with my family, I felt like I'd stepped into a large hairdryer on high heat.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, good Lord.
And it's a dry heat, too. So,
yes.
Yeah, Arizona is a very hot place. It's a gorgeous place, though. But it's very, very hot. I used to live in Holbrook, which was actually not too far from Snowflake.
Yes.
But I lived there in the 90s, long after he had his abduction. So, again, what like we said before, what makes his case so unique was that it happened after a day of logging with some coworkers, and after he disappeared, the coworkers who were witnesses became suspects because they believed that they had murdered him and left him out in the woods.
Yeah, and at the time, I could see how they might pull that out of their rear ends because of the fact that, yeah, you're going to tell somebody, well, this bright light, and all of a sudden he was gone, and this, that,
right.
and the other. You know,
Okay.
Yeah, they're going to think they're fucking crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to think you made up whatever story you can make up to get away with murdering somebody and leaving their body in the forest, for sure.
Yep, and we will tell people this episode was made famous by the 1993 film Fire in the Sky.
Yeah,
which is actually a very good movie.
It is good. One notable thing about that is, the people who have seen that movie, who remember that movie, remember it for the scene towards the end, which is when he has a flashback of him being abducted.
Yeah,
because that is a truly terrifying scene. The entire bit is just terrifying. Everything they do to him.
Yes,
and that's a scene that everybody remembers when they've seen the movie.
Of course.
Of course, yeah.
It's things of nightmares.
And of course, that would be the one part of the movie that was totally false.
Yep.
So everything else that happened in the movie was pretty accurate. I mean, of course, liberties taken, things that happened out of order just to make the movie flow better. But everything else happened as it supposedly actually happened, except for the actual abduction. None of that shit actually happened, according to Travis Walton, when he after he wrote his book and told his story. But of course, Hollywood's going to
they're going to embellish.
Oh yeah,
they have to. They got to sell this thing. I mean, it's like, yeah, the story itself is intriguing enough, but why not just scare the living shit out of people?
Yeah,
by producing this crazy scene of him being pinned down and forcibly
pierced and things shoved in his eye. And yeah, it's truly, truly terrifying.
And I will add real quick before we go any further, how do we know this? Not only is it documented, not only has he written about the embellishments, we have actually both had the privilege of meeting this gentleman at a past paranormal event.
Mm-hmm.
And hell of a nice guy. He's on the level. He's not hokey. He's not crazy. And he's not out to make a buck. He's just out there trying to tell his story.
Yeah. And he's told the same story consistently since 75. I mean, he has not embellished or changed one bit of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, unless you've read his book or you've seen his interviews, you know, the only thing you're going to know about is what you've seen in the movie, which is, again, it's a good movie.
It's a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I've got a friend who can't stand it, and the very thought of the movie makes him cringe.
Yeah. Which is funny because he's scared of the part that didn't actually happen.
Exactly.
So
but then again, Hollywood did their job.
But it's so funny. I had a friend a long time ago who was actually scared shitless of E.T.
E.T.
E.T. Steven Spielberg's E.T., the extraterrestrial, the cute little thing. It frightened the hell out of him.
Good Lord.
Yeah, and this was a grown adult, mind you. Okay, so
oh jeez.
I guess it just takes all kinds to be afraid of all kinds of different alien beings. So. Well, before we get into the depth of the story, why don't we go ahead? James, do you have a weird news article of the day?
I always have a weird news article of the
Wonderful.
day, Chris.
All right.
Come on, man.
What do we got going on today?
All right. Today's story is dated October 8th of 2019, fairly recent. It is entitled, Not One Drop of Blood, Cattle Mysteriously Mutilated in Oregon. And I have seen stories of cattle mutilation for decades and stuff. Mm-hmm. But, it's always fascinating how these particular things happen, especially when we're talking about the whole UFO. So this kind of comes into play. And this was actually unintentional. When I picked my story, I didn't know what story you were running with for the podcast this week. So it's kind of like it was blind luck, I guess.
Yeah.
Because we all know that cattle mutilation is heavily associated with UFOs and stuff like that anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and read the story here. The crumpled carcass of a bull lies on U.S. Forest Service ground. It was among several killed and mutilated this summer in eastern Oregon. In the early morning light, dust from the hooves creates a fog at Sylvie's Valley Ranch in remote eastern Oregon. Cowboys whistle and talk low to their eager herding dogs. They're moving the cattle from one vast, sage-studded range to another. 5 young purebred bulls mysteriously showed up dead. I always laugh at this. They show up dead.
They say showed up at all, right?
Found dead would be more appropriate, but you know what? I didn't write the damn story. I'm just trying to read the shit. All right. 5 young purebred bulls mysteriously showed up dead on the ranch this past summer, drained of blood and with body parts precisely removed, which remains consistent with many of the stories I've always heard.
Right, yeah.
The ranch's vice president, Colby Marshall, drives his truck down a U.S. Forest Service road. Then we'll get out and take a little walk to where one of the bulls was found, and the carcass is still there, Marshall says. Coming upon one of the dead bulls is an eerie scene. The forest is hot and still, apart from a raven's repeating caw. The bull looks like a giant deflated plush toy. It smells. Weirdly, there are no signs of buzzards, coyotes, or other scavengers. His red coat is as shiny as if he were going to be at the fair, but he's bloodless, and his tongue and genitals have been surgically cut out. Also,
all familiar.
All very familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Marshall says these young livestock were just reaching their top value as breeding bulls. The animals are worth around $6,000 each, and since these were breeding bulls, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of future calves were lost as well. Finding these young Herefords in this remote country can sometimes take the ranch's experienced cowboys days. Ranch staff members are now required to ride in pairs and are encouraged to carry arms. Well, hell, what cowboy don't carry arms?
Yeah, you think they would already have them.
It's rugged, Marshall says. I mean, this is the frontier. If some person or persons has the ability to take down a 2,000-pound range bull, it's not inconceivable that they wouldn't have a lot of problems dealing with a 180-pound cowboy.
Oh, yeah, definitely not.
Theories abound. Harney County Sheriff Deputy Dan Jenkins has been working the cattle cases and has gotten dozens of calls from all over offering tips and suggestions. A lot of people lean toward the aliens.
He sounds so.
I always have to lead that. You gotta throw a little slang into it.
It always sounds so condescending when they say it like that.
Well, them damn aliens.
Them crazy sounds say it's the boogers in the sky.
One caller had told us look for basically a depression under the carcass because he said that the alien ships will kind of beam the cow up and do whatever they're going to do with it. Then they just drop them from a great height. Dan Jenkins, with the Harney County Sheriff's Office, has been investigating the killings of several cattle on Sylvie's Valley Ranch. Jenkins says the cases have been tough with little evidence and no credible leads. On his whiteboard, he has a running list scrawled in green marker with top theories. What's clear? It isn't bears, wolves, cougars, or poisonous plants. Nor were the animals shot. The FBI won't confirm or deny that it's looking into multiple slaughters. 2 years ago, and 200 miles south near New Princeton, Oregon, one of the Andes Davies cows was also found cut up and bloodless. She and her husband drove concentric circles around the corpse, but they never found any tracks. And in this dusty country, quote-unquote, everything you do leaves tracks, Davies says. Back in the 1980s, one of Terry Anderson's mother cows was mysteriously killed overnight, standing at his ranch near Pendleton, Oregon. Anderson points to the exact spot where he found her on top of a mountain. He remembers his cow lying dead, her udder removed with something razor sharp, and not one drop of blood anywhere, Anderson says. He's never gotten over it. Nor would I. That would be kind of freaky.
It's very freaky.
I mean, yeah, you raise cattle for multiple purposes, but to see them just killed like that would disappoint me and hurt me.
Yeah.
Because you work hard.
Right.
And you do actually love the animals, even though
it's your livelihood.
Absolutely. Quoting, it's just left a really strange feeling with me since that day. You can't explain it, Anderson says. And no one else has been able to explain it. The Harney County Sheriff's Office continues to field calls on the killings, and Sylvie's Valley Ranch has put up a $25,000 reward for information that could solve the case. And I hope, they get it.
Well, they're not going to. Nobody's solved the mystery of cattle mutilations yet. It's been going on for decades now.
That is true. That is very true.
For decades and decades.
And the whole bloodless thing. No eyeballs, no sexual organs, drained of blood. That's very weird.
And I mean, there's a whole lot of theories on why that is. I mean, skeptics say that, well, there's no blood because it's all drained into the ground. And that's why you don't see it. But you would still see a mark from where the blood drained into the ground.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You can move the carcass and there would be a blood stain in the dirt.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
Especially with a cow. They have like 8 gallons of blood in them. They're huge animals.
Mm-hmm. They always seem to take out the exact same organs every time. The sexual organs, the liver. What else did they say they take out? The tongue and genitals.
Yeah.
Tongue and genitals every single time, which is the weirdest parts to take out. And that is not the parts that predators go for.
That is very true. They go for the guts.
They go for the guts and the throat.
Yeah.
The softest parts.
They go for the throat to kill, and then they usually just eat the guts or the legs. They'll chew on the legs and stuff like that for the meat.
You know what wasn't mentioned as a possibility, which I think for a very short time, I think at least in the 70s was satanic rituals.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not doesn't seem to be one of the suspects anymore.
Well, see, I don't think a bunch of devil worshippers be running around out on a ranch somewhere risking the chance of getting capped.
Right. I mean, trying to sacrifice a 2,000-pound cow.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder than doing a little tiny lamb or a goat or a chicken or something,
Well, it's like, what are you going to do? Unless you have them all in the area and you have a 24-hour guard on them, something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And obviously, whatever is doing this is slick, undetectable.
Doesn't leave a trace.
Doesn't leave any traces.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a big mystery.
Yeah, this has been, I mean, I think for me, this has been one of the more fascinating occurrences that have been happening in the world, because it's still happening. A lot of people think a lot of, maybe, I guess you could say, ufologists or alien theorists believe that the aliens were taking the parts for some sort of experimentation, taking the genitals for some sort of reproduction experimentation.
Could be.
But you kind of wonder. I mean, it's been going on for decades now. Have they not finished that project? I mean, how is it still going on? If they're so far advanced, how are they still needing, and why aren't they taking human reproductive organs?
Well, maybe, here's a theory, and it happens to fit the facts loosely, but you never know. What if they're taking the sexual organs and, stuff like that, like the sexual organs, like you said, who says they're not incubating cattle in space and growing them and eating them? Because maybe they like them. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds weird. It's far-fetched, but hell, what else,
I mean, and my counter to that is, why not just take one cow and one bull and just
let them do their thing?
Yeah, and just create your own.
Maybe they don't want to deal with the prairie.
So I think where you're going is that they take the reproductive organs so they can clone the cow's meat without having the whole cow.
Possibly.
So
that's just one theory. If that is what the purpose is, to produce a herd on another planet, perhaps, you never know. Shit.
So they're leaving traces of what they do behind in order to create a new herd on their planet, when they could just take a whole cow and a whole bull and not leave any trace. But what I'm kind of hearing is that you're saying that the alien species have figured out how to get the milk without having to buy the cow, which is something we have not figured out how to do yet.
You know what? Score.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Them clever bastards,
little
man.
And then they're not even worried about covering the tracks, because we can't catch them in the first place. Because, like I said, this has been happening for decades.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And it's not just there; it's all over the place. So
it's going to keep going.
Like I said, unless they nail down some cult that's doing this shit. But then how do they drain the cow like jerky overnight like that?
And the colts are going to need like some sort of a vehicle to do all this. And there's
Exactly.
no tire tracks, no tread tracks, no caterpillar tracks, nothing.
Yep.
There's nothing.
Well, maybe one of these days they'll figure it out.
I know it's not colts, though, because I think if it was a cult, I believe they would have been found out by now. This long into it, because
it's very possible, unless they actually do know something, and they're that damn government.
Them governments, man.
They always,
always messing with you.
Yeah, they're not going to tell us the truth.
It was just past 6 o'clock as Travis Walton and his 6 fellow log cutters finished off a long day of thinning undergrowth in the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest. The sun had set and darkness was falling quickly, as it tends to do among the tall pines along the Mogollon Rim. With it, an increasing November chill was coming over the men, and they anxiously piled into their truck to head for home. It would be at least an hour before they reached Heber to the north, so the men settled into their seats as best they could for the jarring drive up the forest's uneven dirt roads. The smokers in the group hastily lit the first cigarettes they'd had in hours. Walton, one of the only 2 non-smokers on the crew, sat up front in the passenger seat, enjoying the fresh, cool air and watching the pines pass by. Heading up towards Mogollon Rim Road, Walton soon noticed something shining among the branches off to the right. The others saw it too, and the chatter from the back seat fell quiet. The spaces between the trees flashed by too quickly to make out what the object was, but a clearing up ahead revealed a yellowish glow that washed across the road in front of them. The driver sped up to get a closer look. When they reached the clearing, the men were astonished by what they saw. Less than 100 feet from the edge of the road, a glowing disc hung in the air, floating motionless between the trees, only 15 feet off the ground. Now, you've been out to the woods a lot, right, James?
I was raised in the woods, brother.
How would you feel if you were out doing your normal stuff in the woods and you just turn the corner around a tree and come upon a giant disc,
floating disc
15 feet off the air, off the ground?
I would literally shit myself. I mean, who wouldn't?
Okay.
Now, everybody talks smack. Oh, that would be so cool to see. Yes, it would be cool to see at a distance. But if you ran right up on it, I believe that would be probably one of the most bone-chilling experiences somebody could probably have.
And that's how you feel right now. It's like if you were a kid when you're growing up and you did that, you'd probably be scared shitless. But right now, knowing as much as you know and all the in paranormal investigations you've gone on, would you still act the same way if you were in the woods in Colorado and you came upon this in the middle of the woods?
Floating in the woods, I would probably still observe from a distance, but I would probably want to check it out. I would be like, yeah, I want to check it out. But then, them aliens.
You probably want to get your camera out and try to take a picture, maybe?
Absolutely. If I had it with me, yeah.
Yeah, if I was...
I have a bad habit of traveling when I'm, in the woods and stuff. I don't take my electronics. I like to hike and just go.
You'd be one of them crazy crackpots to be screaming about UFOs. Nobody believe you.
Nobody believe you because you got no
proof.
evidence.
Got no evidence. That's right. You got to take the camera with you, James.
I'm gonna tell you what. That's everything.
That is everything.
Because nowadays with the way all the storytellers and the bullshit artists and stuff out there.
Oh yeah.
Who try to just say, "Oh, I saw this and I saw that." Well, where's your pictures? Well, I didn't have it with me. Well, how do we? Unfortunately, you have to prove it.
It's all subjective.
Yep.
It's all subjective.
It's all about what you can prove nowadays. It's no longer. Word of mouth. Nobody's going to take you at your word on something like that, especially something that extraordinary.
I mean, there are some people that do, but they also require more evidence. So, if you tell them you saw something or you experienced something, they want you to point out where so they can go and run tests and stuff. But then, if they don't have any other evidence to back up what you claim, then they're not going to believe you, of course.
Or you'll vanish.
Yeah, or you'll vanish.
If you unfortunately come upon a government experiment of some sort or actual encounter, they may very well make you vanish.
Yes, probably. Yeah, Men in Black.
Lock you up, something, yeah.
Men in Black.
That is not a far-fetched idea either.
No, it's not.
I'm sorry, it's not.
They're out there.
Movie or not, but yeah, there's people out there, secret level government people. Probably not even government. Probably beyond the government.
Might even be aliens.
Yep, government can just be a smokescreen. They ain't really running shit.
The truck slammed to a halt and Walton opened his door to get a better look. There was no sound save for a startled cry from one of the cutters. My God, it's a flying saucer. As he recounts in his book Fire in the Sky, Travis Walton then stepped out of the cab and walked towards the object. The others begged him to get back in the truck, but he felt compelled to get a close-up look. He approached the craft cautiously, glancing back to the truck now and then as his friends continued to plead with him. Coming within 6 feet of the craft, Walton stopped and stared up at its glowing underside. That dude has some major cojones.
I'm going to tell you what, yeah. Because to walk up on something like that, yeah, general curiosity would lead you to look. But then again, was he at this point already under some kind of hypnosis?
Well, but I've never... So the only time I've ever heard of hypnosis or even being in control of a craft is when people are asleep. I've never heard of it when they're awake.
Okay. So maybe that's just theory, maybe. But then again, he recounts these things in his stories. He knows what he was doing. And normal circumstance, people have been hypnotized, do not remember most or all of what they've done. Or
he also says that he looked back to the truck a few times.
Yeah.
So he was totally conscious what he was doing.
Maybe maybe it just didn't dawn on him it was an actual flying saucer. Maybe he thought it was some kind of other...
Something. I mean, obviously he was definitely under some sort of spell to be so transfixed to actually walk up within 6 feet of this large
And like
craft.
you said, and I'm surprised he could walk, with the size of the balls you need to walk up on something like that.
Yeah, I mean, he just walked up like he knew it. Like it was somebody on the side of the road that just car broke down. He knew who they were, so he just walked up to see what's going on.
Crazy.
Suddenly, the silence along that dark, isolated road gave way to what Walton would later describe as the thunderous swell of a turbine engine. That's when a narrow beam of light fired from the bottom of the disc and struck Walton in the chest. It lifted him up, then knocked him to the ground like a thunderbolt. In a panic, the rest of the crew sped away towards the main road, terrified. When the men regained their senses, they returned to the clearing to rescue their friend. Unfortunately, the craft was gone, and so was Walton. Damn, he got abducted. Damn.
Yep.
That's what happens when you leave your friend behind.
Way to go, yeah. Take off and leave him.
Well, you know what happened? Walton got out of the truck and said, "I'll be right back."
You
never
say that.
Never say that. Despite a thorough search of the area, they could find no trace of him and were forced to drive home, one crew member short. When they reported what happened, the authorities discounted the men's tale as a ridiculous attempt to cover up a murder and launched an extensive search for Walton's body. They searched for several days and found nothing. Walton reappeared outside Heber 5 days later and corroborated their story with the addition of what happened aboard the spacecraft. Up to this point, everything that we've discussed has been told by the witnesses, has been told by the police, has been told by Walton himself, and this is how it is in the movie.
Yep.
Up to this point, what happens in the movie is, I would probably say 90% accurate to what happened in the actual event.
Yes.
Here is where we sort of diverge from the Hollywood crap.
Yeah.
And get down to what Walton said actually happened versus what Hollywood says.
Yeah, because we're not here to embellish, go along with Hollywood bullshit.
Right. Walton reported that after approaching UFO near the worksite, the last thing he remembered was being struck by the beam of light. When he woke, Walton said he was on a reclined bed. That's comfortable. A bright light shone above him, and the air was heavy and wet. He was in pain and had some trouble breathing, but his first thought was that he was in a normal hospital. As his faculties returned, Walton says he realized he was surrounded by 3 figures, each wearing a sort of orange jumpsuit. Oh, they were convicts. Damn, he was in the penitentiary.
Either that or it's got some Clockwork Orange shit going.
Oh, not the Clockwork Orange. Oh no, it's Alex, huh?
Damn.
These figures were not human. Walton describes the beings as typical of the so-called Greys, which feature in some abduction accounts. Quote, shorter than 5 feet, and they had bald heads, no hair. Their heads were domed, very large. They looked like fetuses. They had large eyes, enormous eyes, almost all brown, without much white in them. The creepiest thing about them were those eyes. They just stared through me, end quote. Their ears, noses, and mouths, quote, seemed real small, maybe just because their eyes were so huge, end quote. Walton related that he feared for his safety and got to his feet and shouted at the creatures to stay away. He grabbed a glass-like cylinder from a nearby shelf and tried to break its tip to create a makeshift knife, but found the object unbreakable, so instead waved it at the creatures as a weapon. Sounds like what I would do.
Get back, bitch.
It sounds almost like a comedy when he's trying to break it and he just can't break it.
Yeah.
The trio of creatures left him in the room. Walton then left the quote-unquote exam room via a hallway, which led to a spherical room with only a high-backed chair placed in the center of the room. Though he was afraid there might be someone seated in the chair, Walton says he walked towards it. As he did, lights began to appear in the room. The chair was empty, so Walton says he sat in it. I mean, wouldn't you? I mean, look, if you're in some weird place you don't know where it's at and it looks like a captain's chair, you're going to sit in the captain's chair.
Yep.
You're going to go full on, pretend you're Captain Kirk in that thing, right?
That's pretty crazy, but yeah, probably so.
When he did, the room filled with lights, similar to stars projected on a round planetarium ceiling. The chair was equipped on the left arm with a single short, thick lever with an oddly shaped molded handle atop some dark brown material. On the right arm, there was an illuminated lime green screen about 5 inches square with black lines intersected at all angles. When Walton pushed the lever, he reported that the stars rotated around him slowly. When he released the lever, the stars remained in their new position. He decided to stop manipulating the lever since he had no idea what it might do. I mean, he probably just...
That would have been cool, though. Why didn't they include this?
Because Hollywood...
It's like as astral projection room or something.
Yeah.
Or what do they call it?
It's a... What do they call it in Star Trek when they go into warp speed? It's warp speed.
Yeah.
Because in Star Trek, the ship's not moving at warp speed. You're moving the space around you.
Yes.
And that's what he was doing. He's moving the space around him, which is why the stars moved.
Ah.
But see, that's not as terrifying as being attacked and probed and needles stuck in your eye like they have in the film. He left the chair and the stars disappeared. Walton thought he had seen a rectangular outline on the rounded wall, perhaps a door, and he went to look for it. Just then, Walton heard a sound behind him. He turned, expecting more of the short, large-eyed creatures, but was pleasantly surprised to see a tall human figure wearing blue overalls with a glassy helmet. At the time, Walton said he did not realize how odd the man's eyes were, larger than normal and a bright gold color. Walton says he then asked the man a number of questions, but the man only grinned and motioned for Walton to follow him. Walton also said that because of the man's helmet, he thought he might have been unable to hear him. So he followed the man down a hallway which led to a door and a steep ramp down to a large room Walton described as similar to an aircraft hangar. Walton says he realized he had just left a disc-shaped craft similar to the one he had seen in the forest just before he had been struck by the bluish light, but this craft was perhaps twice as large. In the hangar-like room, Walton reported seeing other disc-shaped craft. The man led him to another room containing 3 more humans, a woman and 2 men resembling the helmeted man. These people did not wear helmets, so Walton says he began asking questions of them. They responded with the same dull grin and led him by his arm to a small table. So obviously they didn't understand what he was saying. Yep. It's like when you go to a different country and people can't understand English, they just smile and nod at you and just say, just have a seat, I'll bring you some food.
Yep.
Once he was seated at the table, Walton says he realized the woman held a device like an oxygen mask, which she placed on his face. Before he could fight back, Walton says he passed out. When he woke again, Walton says he was outside the gas station in Heber, Arizona. One of the disc-shaped craft was hovering just above the highway. After a moment, the craft shot away, and Walton stumbled to the telephones and called his brother-in-law Grant Neff. He thought that only a few hours had passed.
Apparently not.
Of course, we know that it was actually 5 days that passed.
5 damn days. Unaccounted for.
And at that point, again, the movie plays into what actually happened where the co-workers became suspects in murders and were given lie detector tests. I think
yes.
One of them didn't pass, but because he was just a shady character anyway.
You know what? As a matter of fact, and I think to this day they have retested them several times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they have all passed several times. The co-workers as well as Travis. I mean, they've all passed these tests.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and he stuck to the story since 1975. Of course, as you saw, the outcome of his story is not as climactic as the movie one.
Of course not.
No, it's super simple. I mean, basically what it sounds like to me, and I believe in a few recent interviews, he's actually come to this conclusion as well. He believes, and I believe as well, that what happened was when he was shot with the beam, he was injured, and the creatures, knowing that they injured him, brought him on board to repair him.
Okay.
And they repaired him, but then he woke up, of course, and he's freaked out, so he's trying to get away, and they didn't approach him. They let him go, and so he goes to this other room, and so while he's in there, he's messing with stuff, and then they're worried that he's going to end up breaking time and space or whatever, breaking the time-space continuum. And so like, okay, well, he's better. Let's get, the Greys are obviously the workers of these golden-eyed, humanoid-looking figures.
Yeah.
So the humanoid is like, okay, we need to get this man off our ship before he sends us into a whole different dimension. And so they take him down into the hangar. They knock his ass out.
They
drop the human back on Earth.
And the 5 days could have passed due to the fact that some of Newton's laws of space.
Right.
I thought about that too. I was like, how could it be 5? It could have only been gone for a few hours according to what he thought. But because of the way the way space works,
right? It
could be they were at high speed or something like that. Mm-hmm. Close encounters thing. I mean, the theory's got to come from somewhere, and it makes a lot of sense.
Well, there's a I forget what the name of the formula is called, but there is a formula that states that the faster you go, I think it's the faster you go towards light speed, or so there is a theory or a scientific theory that says that as you travel further away from Earth, your time changes compared to what's on Earth. So you could be gone months in space traveling away, but when you come back, time is different, and so you've actually been gone years.
Yeah, because just a real quick side note, the movie Interstellar.
Yeah.
When they go down to that big quasar, that big dark star that I was like, first of all, why the hell would you go to so close to something that damn, that strong?
Right.
Probably technically not actually, not actually possible. But the fact that they went down, they were gone for an hour and a half or something like that. They come back up and 23 years had passed.
Right. Yeah.
And like a flash.
It's that whole theory.
You just don't know. Yeah.
So now that you've heard his side of it, I mean, what do you think compared to the movie version?
Well, yes, the movie version is scary and entertaining, but if we're going to do this man justice, they should have told the story more accurately, because it can also help to damage people's perception of alien life. Because, if alien life does exist and comes to visit us, the first reaction of people, oh shit, they're going to shove a roto-rooter down my throat,
right?
And and torture me and all this crap. So first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna shoot them,
right?
And you might start an interstellar incident.
Yeah,
far-fetched, perhaps, but also possible.
I mean, this is one of the few incidences where, at least from his point of view, where they weren't hostile. I mean, they obviously were.
Because, like you said, you're exactly right. In the movie, they were hostile.
They're very hostile, yeah.
I mean, that one looking at, and they weren't the little cute grays. They were the tall brown ones.
Yeah.
Like the ones you saw from Signs and stuff like that.
What the movie shows, which is I don't know. Anyway, what the movie shows is that they were the grays, but the gray skin with the big black eyes was a spacesuit that they wore.
Huh.
They were actually little like peach looking creatures, and because there's a scene where he comes across this gray alien floating.
That's right. He sure does.
Turns it around, he sees its empty shell.
It's an empty suit. That's
so
right.
That's their spacesuit they use when they come to Earth. But there's also a theory that the Greys are not actually biological beings. They're more like android robots that just do the bidding of like the Nords and the golden-eyed people, and we just go on a whole different tangent here.
Yeah,
so.
There's 1,000 different theories, and I'm sure later episodes will come upon more that we can explore. So
yeah, but I think his version of events is still really, really cool.
It's very cool, actually. They're actually a friendly, because if they wanted to kill us, they'd have done it already.
Right.
And if they have the ability for interstellar travel and other high tech like that, they could deal us a death blow like that. So I believe if there was alien life out there who wanted to do us harm, they would have done it already.
Well, see, I think it's cool because his version of events is much more anticlimactic. It's very, I mean, I hate to use the word believable or down to earth, but it's much more benign. And so if he really wanted to, he could constantly embellish and add a few things here and there to make it seem more more exciting, more intriguing, but he's
absolutely
stuck with the same, I don't want to say boring, but the same boring story since 75.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And the fact that he's told the story honestly, says, no, this is what happened. I wasn't taken up there and experimented on or whatever, like the movie says. I said, he may not know what happened if they had to operate on him or fix him or whatever, because if they blasted him, it may not have been them shooting him. It could have been, like a thruster or something.
Right.
You never know
what it was.
You never know.
Yeah.
They're just trying to move around. They hit him and then realized that they hurt him. So they went back and got him, fixed him up, and then turned him loose.
Right. Exactly.
And the fact that he has passed tests over several decades as technology has advanced in lie detection.
Right. Yeah.
It's way advanced.
Yeah.
So I applaud the man for sticking to his guns and not embellishing and not trying to, quote unquote, get rich. He's just trying to tell a story. Yeah, did he make a buck? He sold a book? Sure. But you know what? He came about it honestly, and for that I respect the hell out of him.
Yeah, so my hat's off to him too. All right, guys, that's going to end it for this episode. This has been a lot of fun.
Heck yeah, great subject.
Yeah, so you guys be careful out there. Watch the skies, and if you see anything glowing in the woods, I say go after it. What do you say, James?
I say go check it out.
That's right.
And say hi. Don't shoot it.
Yeah, don't shoot it.
Be smart.
Don't shoot it. Yeah, be smart. Don't be causing no intergalactic incidents now.
We're not hosting an intergalactic kegger down here.
That's right. Yeah, right? And don't cause any intergalactic wars or whatever. So, But otherwise, until then, guys, I'm Chris.
And I'm James.
And take care, guys. Oh, and don't forget to stay tuned for the personal encounter stories coming up right now.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Chuy, host of Screaming Chuy Show. And, yeah, if you're wondering what my podcast is about, I don't really have a topic or subject about it. Just talk about random shit like, mysteries, creepy shit like Date-Loft Pass, some conspiracies right there, or random shit like when my mom accidentally ate my edibles. That was interesting. Or, like the history of heavy metal. Yeah. Anywho, thank you guys for the opportunity to be on your show. And, yeah, thank you for the opportunity to share my ghost story. Now, I don't know if you guys ever heard of shadow people, but apparently they're a thing. And I found out when I was like 13 or 14. I lived in this house till I was like 19 or 20. And it didn't happen. I don't exactly remember what age it happened, but it was between those years. And I remember one time I was just, laying in bed in the dark, just trying to go to sleep. And just looking around my room, it was pretty fucking dark. But on the walls, all over the walls, there's these shadows, right? And I never really paid attention to them till one night. I was just staring at the walls. And I noticed, when your eyes adjust, these shadows, they're shaped a lot like people. Yeah. Tripped me out at first. I'm like, that's kind of weird. That's a weird coincidence. And the more I looked, the more I stared at the wall, the more I realized it was like a whole fucking crowd of people all over my fucking walls, dude. It tripped me out. And I even got out of bed and like straight walked up to the wall. And yeah, they were there. They're freaking shadows, man. People. And their body movement, their body language was just like people. Like, the best way I can explain it was, when you see something in a distance and you're like, what the fuck is that? And you kind of like walk, you like take careful steps, you move your head left and right a little bit, like trying to squint your eyes, trying to make out what it is. Like, what the fuck, that's the best way I can explain it. That's what some of them were doing. Other shadows were just standing there, and they're all different shapes and sizes, like, like a full-grown adult to kids, like. And this was years, man. And yeah, there was a window in my room, and it had blinds. They were pretty dark, but a little bit of streaks of the street light would go in. And I thought maybe there's a tree outside, and it's making these weird shadows, right? And dude, I drove myself crazy. Like, during the day, I would even go outside in my front yard, and I'm like, okay, what fucking tree is fucking doing this with angle, you know what I mean? And there was no logical explanation. And I never really wanted to tell anybody, for the fear of them saying, what the fuck, dude, you're fucking crazy, so I just never really told nobody for a while, until, I don't know who I told first. I started telling my mom, and, my mom's old school Mexican, so she would get, like, fucking holy water from church and, like, spray it all over my room and shit. And, but one time, so I was in middle school, right? And I had my homies over, and my homie Juan and Frankie, and, we're playing, like, Halo all night and shit, and they spend the night. And, before I turn off the light, I was like, hey guys, check it out. I'm going to turn off the light and look around the walls. Tell me what you see. I didn't want to suggest anything. I wanted to know what they saw. Turn off the lights. Wait a couple minutes. Eyes adjust. And they're like, what the fuck, dude? Is that fucking people's fucking shadows? They saw exactly what I was seeing. Yeah. Turns out I'm not crazy. You would even ask each other, like, all right, where do you see right there on that side of the wall? Or what, what shape? You know, is that a man? Is it a kid or what? You know, and or what direction is he looking at? What's his head doing? And we would all describe the same exact thing. In fact, my homie Juan got scared. We're like 13, 14. And he fucking called his mom to pick him up and he went home. Yeah. And me and my homie Frankie stayed up all night, dude, just looking at the walls. Just, all right, what's that guy doing? All right, what's that guy doing? He's looking to the left. You know, it was crazy, man. But not just that. It wasn't just the shadows on my walls, you see. There was other things that would happen. Like, I don't know if you ever experienced sleep apnea. Like, you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't move, and you feel this fear or panic. Some people see a shadow or a figure. Well, I saw that too. They were all over me and I couldn't fucking move. That would happen a lot, very frequent. It was very common for me to have sleep paralysis in that house. But ever since I moved out of there, I've never seen shadow people or had sleep paralysis ever again. Now, other things that would happen is, you know, these shadow people, they never really hurt me, but they would fuck with me a lot. Like, I had this stereo with, speakers all over my room, and it was late at night. All right, I was playing Xbox or whatever, and the volume on the TV was low. The stereo was off. All of a sudden, it turns on, and the fucking volume shoots all the way up max. Scared the fuck out of me, dude. I turned it off. I went to bed. I was scared. Yeah, other times, well, one time I woke up because, I don't know, dude. Sometimes I randomly wake up, like, you know, at the edge of your, let's say you're laying down and somebody sits at the edge of your bed and you could feel the bed sink in a little bit on that side. I would wake up to that feeling. Yeah. And one time I woke up to that and I saw this like floating doll, or I don't know, she was all white glowing at the edge of my bed by my feet. And she was like floating up and I'm like, what the fuck? And I sit up and I try and like touch her. Like, is that real? And my hand just goes through it. She starts fading away. And I immediately grab the remote and turn my TV on. And I just sat there staring at the TV like, what the fuck did I just see? You know what I mean? Like, weird little random shit like that would happen all the time. Even, I remember one time, it was way later, years later after we moved. I was watching TV with my family, you know, my mom's, and then we were watching this show, and it was talking about devil dogs or demon dogs, right? That they're pitch black and they have these glowing red eyes, and apparently these dogs take you to hell. And my mom, she was like she saw a ghost. I'm like, what, Mom? That show scare you? What's going on? And she told me, she's like, mijo, she's like, I never wanted to tell you. I didn't want to scare you. But when we lived on the house, it was on a street called Garcia. When we lived on the house on Garcia, you know, the way it was in the hallway, my room was right across the hall from my parents' room. And my mom was going to bed. She passed by my room and my door was a little bit open. It was pitch black in there. But she passed by, it caught her attention because she saw these bright red eyes in my room. And they were right where my bed is. And she freaked out, opened the door, turned the light on. There was nothing there. Turned the light back off. No more red eyes. It was gone. Yeah, man. So apparently demon dogs watch me sleep. And I don't know if that's part of the shadow people thing or I don't fucking know, man. But there was just bad energy in that house. It was a lot of weird shit would happen. Little things would go missing. Like, I remember putting something away, bro. And then I go look for it. It's gone. And I swear, dude, like weeks later or something, it's fucking back there, like in that drawer where I looked. Like, weird little shit. Like, I don't know exactly what these shadow people are, but they're fucking little assholes, dude. Yeah, so, but it was a little scary, but after a while I kind of got used to it. I was more curious than anything. And the way these shadows moved on my walls, it looked like they were just as curious as I was. So I don't know if they're from another dimension or ghost. I don't know what the fuck. But they're fucking assholes, and I'm glad I don't have to deal with them no more. But hey, great show, guys, and thanks for having me on. Later.